Yes, sir. Yeah.
I didn't get a chance to meet them before, so if you'll allow me to have a panic attack over here, and then how we run our panels, I'm sure you guys were briefed. We like to get started with a question that we want to give our audience as much time to ask questions at the center as possible. So maybe if we could start, a good place to start, I think, would be, how did you get involved with Lost in the first place, and what brought you to it, and maybe it's something you knew you had to be a part of?
You go first, because you were on the show before.
I was like 20 years old, and I've been working full-time in film and television for a while, but it was the way they have you do pilot season. You kind of take things as they come, and you don't necessarily give anything any priority, and you have to go through a long process. At least back then you did. I don't know exactly how they run it now since there's no more pilot season. But back then you had to test for studio and test for network, and you had to sort of sign a deal for the next 7 years of your life before your final audition even, because they want to make sure the leverage was in the right spot. So, so you basically had to commit before you even knew if you had the role. And so I just thought Lost was so special that I sort of let 2 other test deals go, and my agents were so upset, because I would pretty much, statistically at least, definitely get a TV show if I took them in order.
What were the other shows?
It was the right decision, let's just say that.
Go on, tell us, what were they?
No, well, I was, a 20-year-old playing a teenager, so you do the math. It was probably not Chekhov. But yeah, I just was like, I want to take this risk, and I was like making my rent with commercials, and I was kind of in no place to be picky, frankly. But I was like, I really think this is so special. I just want to wait. I want to wait for it. Like, this is all I want. And missed my big family vacation for the screen test. And let's just say, if I hadn't gotten it, I would have been pretty bummed, because I sort of gave up my work for that year, and my family getting together. But I was just like, this is so special. I really want to be a part of this. And at that point, you just had a few of the roles. And
did they give you a script?
I'm trying to remember when I got a script. When I first auditioned, there wasn't a script. It was just the sides and some bits and bobs. But by at some point through that process, there was a script. But yeah, and the people involved and the energy around it, and it was sort of the biggest, just the most vast production that had ever been.
How many times did you audition? How many times did you have to go back?
I'm trying to remember. I mean, it had to be at least 3 or 4. No, I would say at least 4 or 5, because there would be.
That's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was kind of it.
So you were 20. I was 38. When I got my big break. Because it was my big break. It was the show that changed my life.
You were the Harrison Ford.
I was the Harrison Ford. Not quite. But
No, I'm saying
maybe I can still be Harrison.
Big break in his 30s.
In his 30s?
Yeah, Han Solo was.
Well, yeah, that was a major break. But this was a big break for me. I was in. My manager sent me some sides. I was in the UK, I was in England, and sent me these pages. And I don't know if you ever get these pages, you go, I don't know what to do with this. And I looked at, I had no idea what to do with this. And then she said, are you doing it? Are you doing it? Kept hassling me. And then like a revelation, I thought, I'm going to impersonate my friend Kevin. And so I impersonated my buddy Kevin. And through a long, trying to get someone to tape, I had to do a self-tape back then. It wasn't common. It was back when you, I had to get a friend. I had to get a friend, first of all. That was hard. And then he didn't want to do it, and he was busy messing around with the window, and I was getting whiny with him, and that was the tape we used. The lines were terrible. I look back on that audition, it was awful. But then you had to put it on the, render it to the computer, you had to burn it. If you touched the computer, you had to redo it, and then I had to FedEx it. And I had the kids in the back of the car, and I'm driving around the M25, and my wife at 11 o'clock at night says, "Where are you? Where are the kids?" And I've got them in the back of the car. And what are you doing? "Oh, I'm sending my FedEx off to for an audition." "You never get them. Get home now." I was like, "Oh, never get them. Thanks, honey." I got it. And that was it. And like 3 months later, I booked the role and changed my life. And I never let my wife forget that story.
Well, and if I start talking, I would talk the whole panel up. So why don't we open it up to our audience? If you guys want to go to the mic in the center here, if you have any questions, and line off to the right there. We got somebody coming here. I'll ask another question while we're waiting here. Did you have any idea when you started that your role was going to be so pivotal? I mean, it started with a 3-episode arc, and then you weren't seen for a while, but ultimately your character, the show wouldn't exist without it. When were you aware of that?
When I didn't die after the 3 episodes, they said, "You're doing all right." And then just so happened that I was friendly with Brian Cox, who lived across the road from Carlton Hughes, and one day I was in Brian's house, and he said, "Oh, you turned out quite well. Would you like to come back?" And then I came back for the end of season 2, and that was the moment they started talking about bringing me back as a regular.
All right, we'll go to our audience here.
Henry, I obviously first became aware of you in Lost, but I then became aware of you in a movie called The Gospel of John, which I think they've retitled. And I assumed, because that's the order that I became aware of them, that they cast you in The Gospel of John after you were in Lost. But now looking at the dates of it, it may be the other way around.
It was,
yeah. Okay. But regardless, do you think that kind of like the calm and mysterious nature of those roles had an influence in you getting one from the other, getting the Lost role after you'd been in the Jesus movie?
Absolutely. So I finished the Gospel of John, and then I had the residue of that character with me when I auditioned or did the role in Lost. And you know, when you get the size of Lost, you don't really know what's going on. You just I took a chance, and so I kind of played my character. My audition scene was the when I say, "You have to lift it up," and so I sort of channeled a little bit of that spirituality. I felt I was an angel or something. I didn't really know what was going on, so I played it like an angel.
So in your actual inner performance, it influenced me. But do you think that the producers were aware of you?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Only because I say Gospel of John was not something that would have been on their radar. I don't think. You know, so it was a small movie.
Well, I really appreciate your performance.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I will say before we go to our next question, I don't know if you were aware of this, but we had a Sci-Fi ValleyCon billboard in town, and there's another billboard right below it. We did not plan this. The billboard said, "Are you ready to meet Jesus?" Yeah, and he's here, you know, in whichever way you prefer to view that. So let's go to our next question here.
Sorry, I'm Maggie. You're Shannon to me. So, how did it feel when you had to pass away?
I mean, when they told me, I was pretty bummed out, I'll be honest. And I feel like I, at that point, was like a veteran of moving on from things, for sure. But this was a special, I mean, I was sort of at an age where it was such a formative time.
So much.
Yeah, I felt like I was gonna watch those little kids grow up, you know what I mean? And I think I had this idea, like, from being in theater troupe, that, you know, I'd finally found this, like, merry little band of, you know, that we would travel the world together, and, you know, it was, so yeah, I was bummed, but the death scene itself was cool.
It was.
Yeah, I mean, Naveen soaking wet in the rain definitely looks like Jesus, so just squint, you know. No offense.
We're talking about Jesus a lot in this panel. So. Let's go to our next question there.
Hello. I wanted to ask you both, what episode or episodes do you think challenged you most as an actor or taught you the most that you've carried forward? Maybe the most memorable one.
I guess so. A lot of episodes are challenging for various reasons. The physicality, swimming underwater, running, just dealing with the jungle, all that sort of stuff. There was an episode, I think, that I learned a lot. It was the one with Daniel Faraday, and I forgot the name of the episode. But anyway, that was the episode I thought, I'm going to stop overacting. I'm just going to do less and do. I felt like I gave quite a dull performance, and I thought that was a really, when you're doing so much TV and you're just always doing the same thing, you thought, I'm going to try and do something different. And that was the first time I thought, oh, I can relax. I don't need to be so. The world's ending, And I thought, and that was a real learning curve for me, and I still have to, remind myself that just relax, don't push so hard.
Speaking of physicality, how did you deal with? I still remember there was one Mad TV episode where they did a send up of Lost, and they just had Jack Shepherd arriving to every scene completely out of breath. guys. But there was quite a lot of physicality.
There was a lot of hyperventilating and a lot of lightheadedness, because you do this, and then you just get so dizzy, you think I'm going to pass out. Stop it.
All right, do we have another question here?
What was your favorite scene they filmed or favorite moment when you filmed Lost?
For me, the crash itself, because I think, no matter how much experience you have as an actor, whether we were young or vets or whatever, that was such a new sort of theater in the round, massive set with so much going on. We're used to sort of okay, see that yellow X on the far wall, that's the love of your life being destroyed by a dinosaur. It's we're used to acting off of tape or C-stands or something, and to just have all of this happening in real time, it was extremely overwhelming. All you had to do was sort of breathe and be present and let it in for a minute, and it was totally overwhelming. Quite a lot was happening.
I came across that episode recently because I was looking for something else, and it turned out, and I'd never actually watched that episode. But then, when you get just in that thing, and I started watching the whole thing, it's a brilliant episode. And I remember reading about it. It was a $20 million episode or something like that, wasn't it? It was a very expensive episode.
Yeah, I think 15, but at the time it was.
It was a huge amount. But how many days did you have to shoot it?
I want to say 20. More than a movie gets now, an
Right.
indie, but
Yeah. Because there was the scene where it's on the beach and Jack wakes up and the thing is falling over and
It was 22 or something. It was real time.
And how was that shot? 2 cameras?
The
Was it
part with
just-
Jack?
Yeah, that whole beach sequence when that thing blows up.
Yeah. It's so many cameras. Yeah.
Okay. It's really
Just
even.
the eye shot, you mean, or?
No, it's when he says, "Look after Emily's pregnant and Jorge's with her," and then they run over and they come to you and boom, and that whole sequence is just, it's great. It's just fantastic. Right. What was the question?
Guys, where?
What was your favorite scene
Favorite
that
scene
you shot?
that I shot. I personally, I love the, anytime we could go in the water, under the water, swimming in the water, or running. The scenes where I had no line were my favorite scenes. I realized, oh, this is great. This is gonna be a great day.
All right, our next question there.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the two of you did not share a scene until the series finale, correct?
Correct.
For church. So Maggie, for you, that was like a homecoming. You got to be a part of the series finale with all your former friends, and Henry, that was like a send-off with everyone that had come and gone on the show. Could you take a minute to talk about that scene, the last scene together with everyone?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was really emotional and really full, just being able to kind of come back and see everyone. Like I said, it was a very formative experience, partially because I was so young. And yeah, it was really lovely just on a personal level. I know it's a little controversial. But
What was controversial about it?
oh, just the ending.
Which is beautiful, is beautiful. And they were not dead the whole time. So,
See, there's crowd management happening.
Wanted to see what would happen. Yeah, that day, we're talking about the church day, right? That just seemed like everyone in the whole world was there, wasn't it? Like the producers, the families, it was the busiest day. It was like a party. I remember just being, we were coming to the end, and it was just a ton of people. A ton of people I had no idea who they were. Who I've never interacted with. So it was kind of bizarre, actually. I didn't really love that day. It was just overwhelming for me. It was just, because I only ever worked with one or two people at any given time. So it was just very, very good.
Thank you.
Hi, oh, this is exciting. I used to race home in college, up my dorm, 3 flights of stairs, my roommate having it on, just so I could catch Lost on TV. When you guys were filming Your Death and then the episode The Constant, where you're flashing back, and then you reach Penny on the phone on Christmas, like, when you guys were filming it, did you realize what big an impact it would have on all of your fans? Like, did you feel it in the moment?
I think we were just starting to have deaths on the show, so I think having seen, you know, the kind of impact that Ian's had, I think I had some sense of it. But gosh, I mean, the way you began your question, I really miss that feeling of appointment television that you shared with somebody. You know, I miss the urgency of it and the community of it, and now I feel like it's great that we can binge watch any show in history at the airport. You know, the convenience will never go away. But I do miss that feeling of like when we first started the show. I actually started a thing at my house where I wanted to cook for everybody for our episodes, and then it sort of became where somebody would host for their flashback episode, and just the feeling of like sharing that with somebody. And I think we've all had different shows through the years that we've shared with specific people and debated. And the fact that it's on at a certain time, on a certain night, it's just that time, and you know, you're gonna be in the same physical space, and you know, I miss that a lot.
Yeah, I can understand why. I think when there's a death, there's more of an impact on how the audience will respond to it. But when you're doing an episode, and I was just doing an episode, that there was no feeling of how this is going to go down. I was just like, I just don't want to suck. I just want to do the best I can. So, and it, you know, when you got your episode, and The Constant was my episode, because I hadn't done, you know, I didn't do that much all the way through the show until I got my episodes, and then I was heavy. So I wasn't in it that much, but what I did get was great. I was very grateful for all the fantastic writing and the episodes I was given, but I was just doing my job and just trying to do it the best that I could with what material I was given. So I wasn't really thinking about the audience.
Thank you.
all right, our next question there.
So Maggie, you'll always be Raina to me, and I just wanted to ask some questions about what it was like coming into Breaking Dawn with the Twilight cast that had already been together for a while, and then if you're still friends with the actors.
Gosh, yeah. I mean, it was nice to come into that because there were so many new characters at the same time with all the covens. A few of whom have gone on to do really interesting stuff. And I met 2 of my closest girlfriends in the world on that job, Mia Maestro and Julie Jones, who's here. So I like to say, like, you got to take jobs for different reasons, and you also have to have capacity for surprise that you never know what the reason will be in retrospect. And on that job, I was like, wow, I did this job to meet them. So yeah, it was really welcoming because there were so many of us all at once.
Go ahead with our next question.
First, I want to say the ending is amazing. No secrets in it. Second, I want to say I wanted to appreciate the time of your guys' wardrobe throughout the show, and I wanted to ask how it was like. Did you have to be in the same clothes the whole time, and like how was it to be like dirty? And
I feel like Shannon felt like she found 8 steamer trunks on the beach. I don't know how.
You had like the zigzag in your hair.
Yeah,
and
she was
stuff.
like had razors. She had fully shaved legs the whole time. I don't know what she found and why she wasn't sharing. But yeah.
So I fought with the costume because the blue shirt. I loved the blue shirt. And I thought they tried to give me a different shirt, and I fought with them. I said, no, I don't want shirts. Just give me one shirt. I actually said, I want to be like Mr. Echo. He's got one shirt, I want to be like that. No other thing. And so we had kind of an argument. Who was the costume person? Anyway, I had an argument with them, and they said, you have to wear this green jumper thingy. And then I put that on for one episode, and then I think I wore another shirt, a purple shirt, and then another shirt. And then they said, okay, have the blue shirt, and I kind of stayed in the blue shirt. So it was mainly the blue shirt, so yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, our next question here.
I'm sorry, this isn't a last question, but I'm kind of obsessed with the 100, so I'm really excited to see you. I love Marx's character development throughout the whole show, because I feel like in the beginning he was kind of closed off and like a jerk, and then later in the end just became a completely different person, and I loved his relationship with Abby. I was just wondering what your favorite part of being his character was, or favorite scene.
Thank you for that. Yeah, that was an interesting role, and I think season 3 was my favorite season. It was the lightest, not in terms of the show, but lightest in terms of, I had so much fun during that season, working with people like Michael Beach, and Bob, and Paige. That was just, I just remember that as being the most fun season. It changed when I started directing, because then I went to the other side, and I was like, no, stop fucking around. And then it became different. But season 3 was the most fun.
Did you cross over with Alicia and Carrie?
Yes, well, she turned, your friends?
I worked with her for years. but
She's
I didn't
lovely,
see her.
she's delightful. And I remember when she turned up in the first episode, and we shared at that time. Oh no, we still have the same manager. And so, so yeah, she was delightful. Loved working with her, and yeah, I just yeah, she was absolutely delightful to work with.
All right, our next question there.
Welcome to the city of Altoona.
Thank you.
And my question is, what shows that became popular that you tried to audition for that you did not get in?
Don't you feel like there's a code? Not to talk about it.
Oh really? Like what became really popular that you didn't book? Let me think. So many. Gosh, there's a list. Where do we start? There's too many. But nothing off the top of my head that goes, damn, I wish I'd booked that. I can't really think. But there's a lot of shows that I didn't book.
Yeah, but I feel like if you've been in it for a minute, you have this total surrender of leaving it all on the field, and you do or don't get something for really specious reasons that usually you have no control over.
Exactly. I don't really think about
Maybe
it.
you look slightly like someone's ex-husband. That's a big reason.
Is that a good thing or bad?
Well, it could go either way.
Okay.
You say it. You say. I think he was supposed to be X-Men, and then
Oh really?
just making it wrong.
Okay. Yes, the X-Men.
Wolverine, mostly.
It was between me and you.
You said you didn't want it.
I started kind of busy that weekend, and then give it to the other.
He did some things with it. They made some choices.
Yeah, well, you know. All right, go ahead.
100% was not going to get up here, but now that I know you both know Alicia, did she really flip the knives around that much?
Does she flip
Because
an
I
axe?
feel like everything I've
That is
just about
soon.
her, the butterfly knives were always out.
Oh, I had the push blades on our job. Did she have knives?
She had swords. She was pretty good with the swords. I think she does ballet or something. Is she kind of?
Yeah,
She's got a dance background, right? Because I remember when she did the sword things, she was pretty good at the
She
twirling.
still has the kind of
Yeah, she has.
fingers,
I think she
you know?
has some sort of movement
Well,
background.
I really like weapons, and there were many owl editions, so it's like, I'm going to take this opportunity to ask.
Yeah, she's pretty good with weapon work, as I recall.
She was.
All right, our next question there, gentlemen.
First of all, I love both of you guys. I have to know, at the end of the show, did you steal anything from the show?
Oh, I wish I would have. Oh my God.
Souvenir.
And like when I moved, I mailed a box of lost stuff to this really beautiful cancer charity, and they auction everything. If I'd known, you know, that stuff would be worth something and that you could donate, I would just be like shoving things in bags.
Yeah, I took a blue shirt. And then they found out. And then they wanted it back. But I told them I auditioned it. I auctioned it. And
You actually have it.
no, I actually didn't. I don't.
So you used pediatric oncology as a front for your own selfishness.
Somebody got it. I don't know who got it. You look very familiar. No, okay, for a second I thought. We work together?
No, I knew my number. Great job.
But anyway, the blue shirt. That's someone else's.
So no one hate on me, but I'm not actually a Lost fan.
Ooh.
I've never seen it. I am a fan of the
She's a
100.
soon-to-be lost fan.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm a fan of the 100. I echo everything my previous person said about your character, Love Marcus King, and your relationship with Abby. However, my question is for my brother, who is a huge fan of Andrew Peterson and his music, but also the Wingfeather Saga.
Oh wow, yes, okay.
So I believe I read somewhere that the character that you voiced for the animated work that you did was written by him based on Desmond. Is that correct? Or somehow based on Desmond, influenced by.
So when they were looking for the role, the character, the person to play Pete the Sockman, they had a drawing, and they showed me the drawing, and it was basically Desmond, but with the claw hands, the claws. And they gave it to my agent and said, do you know, and they said, oh, well, we look after this guy. So that's how I got it. But basically that drawing was a drawing of Desmond. I don't really know what the correlation was with them, but yeah, I looked at
He
the
was a
drawing.
Lost fan, I think.
Possibly, yeah, possibly that's how I could, yeah, that's how I.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right, go ahead. Your next question.
Throughout the show, we had time traveling bunnies, the stations, smoke monster. Did they give you any idea of what was coming in the script, or was it just mystery the whole time?
None.
No, we got nothing, like we got the scripts, I think 2 days before we shot.
Sometimes the next day.
You know, and so we were, but when we got the scripts, they were, like, I was a fan, I was ravenous. I got that script, I mean, we would, in our house, we would fight over who was reading it first, you know, however it came, and, but no, we had zero idea of what was coming out, which made it even more exciting, right? When you got the script, you think, what was happening with all the characters? But, yeah, it was an interesting thing for actors to deal with. You know, you thought you were doing something, shaping your character in certain ways, and then, you know, just hoping that they would see what you were doing. I sometimes felt like I influenced my character's progression by doing certain things. You know, they saw what I was doing. And they would,
Can you give an example of that?
just things like, I would like talk about the fate and destiny stuff. I was like off camera talking about, I think my favorite play was Oedipus, and which is all about fate. And, so it was towards the end of season 2, beginning of season 3. I felt like I was throwing little things in there for the writers. I don't know, maybe they were just like, But I do know that Carlton used to read all that stuff. He would have conversations with me about, said, have you seen what's on the, what the fans have done? They've drawn this, da. So they would read all the stuff, what you guys were writing, so.
We'll talk here for a second as this gentleman's coming up. You guys, you mentioned the ending, Maggie, with there being a lot of people that didn't like it. I personally loved it. I know we got a lot of people in here that loved it. But did you feel in any way fulfilled in the end, or did you feel a little let down? Which, every opinion's okay here. How did you feel about the ending and the response that it got?
I mean, I had sort of made my peace with all of it and didn't really have any skin in the game one way or the other at that point. Is that fair?
Yeah. In the end.
Were you still watching the show as a fan, or do you stop watching?
No.
You stopped watching it once you
Not
left?
at that point, no.
Oh, so you don't really know what happened after you left?
I mean, at the point where,
I'm not putting you under the spot.
Yeah, I'm a little
Sorry.
I
this is
felt
what
like it was healthiest to sort of leave when I left, and then I could always come back and watch it later.
Right, yeah. No, I mean, I've left shows where I've stopped watching once I die, and I go.
That's my kind of general.
Yeah, you kind of.
Because you're on the job you're on.
Exactly.
You love the one you're with.
Yeah. And then, so, for example, The 100. I mean, I kind of know what happened in the end, but I didn't really watch it after I died. It was not that I didn't like the show, it was just...
Nothing with the show.
Yeah,
you
just
have to be present with.
Yeah. So I get it. Personally, how did I feel about the end of the Lost? I've always been grateful to the show, and I'll never diss the show. But I felt it could have gone on a bit longer, I wanted it to go on a bit longer, to be honest. Go and say it.
I feel like if it was made a little bit later in time, where they gave a little more credence to writers, like showrunners. Nowadays you have a Jesse Armstrong who can just say, I'm sorry, I know Succession is an enormous hit, but it has this many seasons in it, and that's the legs that this story has, and I want to honor that. And this is the story I set out to tell, and I've told it, and I'm all done. And I don't know that at the time on network television, no one had done that. I think the UK had a huge influence in what if we had a 9-episode season? What if this story could hold 6 episodes? What if it's a limited series? And maybe we'll anthologize it. Storytelling just became, I think they gave a lot more creative latitude to showrunners to sort of dictate what story they wanted to tell and in what container. But back then it was very much you had to get at least 6 seasons out of it, and you had to have 24 episodes a season. And so, it was
Carlton and Damon, Damon said he was burnt out. He had no more story. He was done. He was finished with the show. So that's the story he wanted to tell. He told his story. I guess just from a personal, selfish point of view, I was loving life, working, living in Hawaii, and I felt that there could have been more story for Desmond. But that's just my own personal point of view.
The other side of nowadays is there'd be a Desmond spin-off.
That's what I was pushing for, but
Maybe the showrunner would end it, but ABC would be so, Desmond on his own island, shall we?
That's what I wanted, me and Penny in the same boat.
All right, our next question here.
Henry, you just segued right into my question, which is regarding the location of the filming of Lost. So, on your downtime, which may not have been a lot, how did you spend your time in Oahu?
So I moved there with my wife and 3 children. I grew up in the West Indies in Trinidad, so when we arrived in Hawaii, I knew what island life was like, and I missed it. So I was able to give that to my children. Growing up there, it's just idyllic. It's just a great place to grow up. Very safe. You go out and play, you come home at 6, you're on your bikes. It's very free. And so my time off, we did family stuff, There's just so much to do there. It's just so nice to be able to go to work and then come home and sleep in your own bed. It's very rare for an actor to be able to do that. So, and just enjoy their school activities, hiking, playing a lot of soccer, surfing. Yeah, just enjoying the island.
Do you mind if I ask what part of the island you live?
I live in the east side of the island.
I'm so jealous. I really want to give that to my kids, and they've lost their tax credit.
How about you, Maggie? How did you spend your time there?
I was on the windward side in a little village. Yeah, it was really special, and there was a bunch of us that could walk to each other's houses, and it was awesome.
Are you from Hawaii?
I wish I was. Because I live in Altoona, Pennsylvania, which I a couple thousand miles away.
Well, there's just a huge swath of Oahu that doesn't have any hotels, so it's just, yeah, it's wonderful.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
All right, I think we have time for 2 more questions, and we got 2 more people there. So.
This is a question about the 100. I hope I get no hate here. I loved Marcus and I loved Desmond almost too, but I did not like the character Abby. I hated
I'll tell her. With pleasure.
What was your reaction when you found out that Marcus and Abby were going to become a couple in season 5, I think?
I don't remember.
I've never seen the 100, but this is so entertaining.
I don't remember when we became a couple, but I do remember it was a surprise. You know, people always said there was a lot of tension. Like, you know, as I said, I didn't realize it was sexual tension. I just thought it was tension. And so when it was like pitched, you know, it was like something. You know, the showrunner said we're going to get married. He wanted us to get married at the end of the show. But yeah, it's just, you know, it was in the script because, as you remember, I had a girlfriend who disappeared after season 1. She was like never heard of again. So.
I had an actor I really respect once told me that if you're ever cast opposite someone that you just innately detest, like take that gift because it reads as real chemistry.
Oh,
because you want something so badly you're never gonna get at that moment. You know what I mean? You're just
okay,
like,
can I just be clear that I do not detest Abby? I do not.
Nobody thought that.
I do not detest Abby. Paige was lovely to work
Characters,
with.
the characters.
Yes, Paige was she was a great scene partner and a terrific actress. So. Look, stop! What are you doing? What are you doing?
No, but the tension of any kind often sort of.
Right, I see what you're saying. Yes, yes. Maybe that's what they saw. So.
All right, your last question. You're on the spot here.
Okay. I always wondered, most recently, that series only had maybe like a 10-episode arc. But I remember like old series had about 20, 25 episodes, longer episodes. I always wondered how the scheduling worked. Like, what's the difference in how you were on set back then? The hours, was it more complicated back then than now? So, for both of you.
Wow, there's a back then.
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it had to do with how syndication worked back then. Maybe we were trying to get to at least 100 episodes to syndicate to cable, and that's kind of where people have their bread and butter. So if you're a producer, like, you're really heavily incentivized to. They used to have a big sheet cake that they bring on set, and the crew would be so excited. Yeah, but then we sort of moved to this new model that we haven't quite figured out yet with streamers, and things are very different. But I think from a storytelling perspective, there's, certainly an upside to that.
The 10 episodes, you prefer that?
I prefer that it can be adjusted to what the story sort of reflects.
I think as a viewer, I prefer 10. I think with 24, I don't know how you guys feel about it, but 24, sometimes you go, like, for example, The Wire. I've always been meaning to watch The Wire, but then, it's meant to be, everyone says it's, but every time, it's just so much TV, like, so many episodes, you kind of go, oh, man.
But if you read the show Bible, then you see all the pieces.
But you know what I'm saying, that sometimes you might...
I'm revealing my fandom, I'm like, all the pieces matter.
But, when you watch a show, you kind of go, one of the things I do is, like, how many episodes are there? 8 episodes, I can do that. 6, brilliant, we'll watch that one first. Because 24 now just seems like too many. But from an actor's point of view, 24 episodes is great, because you get paid a lot more. 10 episodes, you're like, okay, I need to do at least 2 or 3 of them. But if you're on a 24 episode show, you're like, brilliant, this is my job. Let's hope it runs for 6, 10 years, whatever. So yes, you're absolutely right. It used to be 24 episodes, so you can get. So when it got to 100, that was syndicated, and the producers would get a lot more money. That's how they made their money when the show got syndicated. But time-wise for us, it doesn't really matter. You know, if it's a 7, 8 day shoot on an episode, it doesn't really matter. Now with 10 episodes, I think you get more days to tell stories between setups. I think that's the goal.
I was just wondering, like, more free time now, because like you have less recording time with more, like with less episodes.
I think most of us sort of move from one job to another if we can.
Okay.
I have a lot of free time at the moment.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for your question. I mean, in talking about that, you know, when we had 24 episodes of something, there had to be some of those standalone episodes that kind of would get mixed in there. They weren't necessarily part of an arc, like, you know.
And then you also had the filler episodes where nothing happens.
There was actually an article about Lost. I don't know if anybody's seen that. It was like in praise of the bottle episode.
Yeah.
It was in the New Yorker or something, and it was about a Hurley episode that would have...
Where Hurley finds a Dharma band, which I think is a brilliant episode.
And it was a really well-written piece, and it was very thoughtful.
And it doesn't really move the overall story forward, but it's one of the most special episodes to me, you know? But if you guys, going back, if you could have one of those episodes like that for your character, you know, what's something that you would like to see your character do that's in that spirit?
Any emotional depth whatsoever.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about that. I didn't know if I should touch on it.
Some sort of growth arc where she
Yeah.
grows up and might be actually capable and self-reliant in any way.
So I'm not the only one that feels like Shannon's a little underserved.
I was sort of like, any moment now, guys.
Yeah.
I like lift something heavy or do something selfless at any time.
But what about you, Ian? Do you have one?
You know, I think Lost and Desmond for me, it's probably the highlight of my career, and I'm really grateful for the writing. So no, I can't ask for anything more. They gave me a real gift, so I'm not going to ask for anything more. I think they gave me some great stuff to do.
I was also grateful. Now you just made me sound so ungrateful. I'm saying, like, I was ready to grow up. I was 20 and I wanted to grow up, but I was also very grateful.
I got that from what you said. There was the subtext I got.
Like, no, I was pretty perfect.
I think we're missing out on a Desmond Shannon show. That, you know, it could be a fun, you know, wacky odd couple, you know, kind of thing. You know, well, I mean, we talked about being grateful. We're incredibly grateful that we, you know, got to have both of them. And I'm hoping, I don't know about you guys, I hope maybe we'll have more Lost in the future here. You know, I've been pressing for it for years. It's like I said, I mean, when I found out my ex-wife was going to have a son, I was like, his name is Desmond. It was the first thing that came out of my mouth. His name is Desmond. So, you know, both of you, even though I didn't name a kid Shannon, you know, just being a part of this show that I don't know.
Didn't she exemplify the qualities that you would wish for?
Yeah, you know, maybe, you know, just didn't quite think of it. I know when we used to gather and there would be 20 people in my little apartment. I had a 1-bedroom apartment watching Lost every week, and people would show up that sometimes I'd go, I don't know you, why are you here? And it'd be a friend of a friend who had invited him, and you know, it just kept growing and growing and growing. So I don't know if we'll ever get that back, you know, and that's something that will be special to me for the rest of my life. So, and it's